Hey, this is Gary, and welcome back to my tutorial on 2D game development using LibGDX. Today we're going to go over animations, which includes texture regions. And so let's get started. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to rename this class from game screen to image screen, since it just contains our image animations. And then I'll create a new class, or actually before I create the new class, I'm going to do one little cleanup. I'm going to move this Resize method into our base screen and change that to width and height. And I haven't implemented the width and height on this screen yet, but that will come later. Update our version for that. And while it rebuilds, we'll update this version to use it. Loading core. And our screen is ready. We don't need that now. And we will create a new screen. Animation screen. Extends the base screen. Get our constructor. Implement our abstract methods. And then we're ready to begin. Except here we're going to now we're going to get our animation. And so here I have some animations here. Animation is essentially a series of images, and as you flip between the images, the object within appears to move. These are single row animations, so you could have animations that are multiple rows. We're going to get the moving ball, and this one is just goes to a single path, and we're going to take the bouncing ball here, which does a repeat, and then we'll repeat back there, so you can loop through those two. So we'll take these two animations, copy them over to our assets folder, and so in our assets folder we're going to work with a texture region. And a texture region is a double array and you create that by using the static method split, and then you specify the height and width of the animation of the images. So for this moving ball, it is a width of 50 and its height is 200. Now, the next thing that you need to do is use an animation object. And this animation object is of a texture region. The first element is how long it runs per second as a float, and then your texture region, and you give it a single array, and so the first element of the array is your row, and then the second element is your columns. So we'll give it the first row, and it'll be for 1 second. And then in our render, we do our batch, we draw, we're into our texture region, and here you want to use animation.getKeyFrame, and then you give it a state, which essentially is the delta. Move that up a little bit. Now we'll render that. Now you can see it's not moving. And the reason behind that is that the delta time roughly stays the same. It's the delta for that frame. And so we actually want to have a separate float outside of the loop. We'll just call it animation time. We'll add the delta time to it, and so this will continue to go up. There it goes. It's moving really slow. Actually, I want to speed that up. So this is this time here is actually the time for each frame. So if I do, let's do 0.1, right? And then run that. There it goes. And then it completes. So the animation has a play mode. And there are multiple play modes. The default is normal, which goes through the animation sequence once. Looping, it will go through it and go through it again and keeps going over and over again. Reverse is it'll just play backwards. So we will demonstrate all of these. So we did normal. Let's do the reverse. Show you what that does. It's going backwards. And then we'll do the loop. To the top and does it again. And then there's an animation doing loop reverse. And so this will go in the reverse direction. And then looping ping pong. And so what this does is just goes back and forth. Goes up and then down, up and then down. And then they have one that is random. And so this just does random frames. So you can see it's just all over the place. Just randomly, and it just continues, and it's looping, so it goes on forever. So now there is also another method that you could set Boolean to do looping. And if you set that to true, so now it's in normal, and this one is set to go normal, and this one is doing looping just by passing in that Boolean. And show you that one continues. Now we're going to do looping for a set number of times. So what we'll need to do is calculate the number of loops. So we'll create an integer here for the number of times we want it to loop. And then here we're going to get our loop number is going to equal the animation time divided by my animations. And then here the animation has some methods for getting the total animation duration, and then you can also get the duration per frame. So we'll get the total animation duration. Let me move this down here where we're looping. And we're going to set a Boolean here, which will tell it to loop. We're going to set it to false. And then we're going to make a check if our loop number is less than our loops. Then we're going to set loop equal to true. And we'll count the loops. See, we've got 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, and it stops. Now we'll look at some of the other methods for animating texture regions. We'll start with the Resize method. So for this one, we will use this method. Give you a height and width so you can resize it to a specific size. We'll use Animation 2. It's a little bit bigger and easier to see. And we'll put that at 100. And we'll just set it to 50 by 50. So we're going to make it square instead of its original size. Let me post the original size here so we can compare it. Alrighty, let's run that. They'll be a little, actually they'll be a little squished together. Separate them a little bit. Okay, there we go. This one is now 50 by 50, and so this is the original. You can see it's a much taller animation. And then when you squish it down to 50, it's just at 50. And so I know it is 50 by 200, and that's the height. So if I wanted to make it half the size, I can do that. There it is, half the size. The next method we're going to look at deals with rotating. And so there's actually two methods for TextureRegion. Do rotating. This one here, which has your XY coordinates, your origin of your rotation, the width, the height. It has a scale factor and the rotation. And then this one, same attributes, except it also has a clockwise. We'll cover that one in just a moment. We'll cover this one first. So our TextureRegion, we're going to use our Animation 2, get our keyframe for animation time, and we'll set this at 150, 100, set our origin to 0. This is our width is 50. And our height is 200. Our scale factor, we'll just set that to 1. And our rotation, we'll set to 0. So there it is, it's this one here. And so we're going to rotate that. Let's rotate it 30 degrees. There you go, and it's 30 degrees. And so straight up and down is 0. 30 degrees is over this way, 90 will be towards the left, 180 will be down, and then 270 will be to the right. So that's pretty straightforward. So let's look at the last method for rotating with the TextureRegion. That's this one. Do our Animation 2 again, get our keyframe. Animation time. Our X coordinate, we'll put at 210, Y coordinate 100 again, or X origin is 0, Y origin will also be 0. Width, we're at 50, our height is 200, our scale is 1. Rotation, we'll make it at 0 to start out, and clockwise, we'll put that to true. Let's render that. Now you can see something is different with this method. And what it is that it is actually rotated before it renders. So there's like a, shall we say, a pre-rotation. So if I set the width to what the height is, and then the height to what the width is, then what we get is it's rotating sideways. So this method is a lot more complicated than the other one. And for most animations that I've done, I've really not need to rotate it. And so I wouldn't recommend using the one with the clockwise. If you want it to rotate in the other direction, you would just do, you can actually do like a minus 30. Show you what that looks like. And you see it's 30 degrees in the other direction. So you can just rotate it that way. So would not recommend using that method. Now what we're going to do is we're going to kind of combine all this together, and we're going to make a character basically walk around the screen. We're going to take this character, which is a walking animation, add that to our assets here. Copy that file name over. And so this is the character walking. You see it's got the 1 foot back, 2 feet together, the other foot back, 2 feet together. So it's a 4-sequence animation of the character walking towards us, to the left, to the right, and then away from us. And so we'll create a new texture region, double array, and we'll call this region walk. Split, we get our texture, and we have a demo character. It's a JPEG, and he is 64 by 64. And what we'll need to do is create some animations for him. And we'll have an animation of down. We'll create an animation left, animation right, and then animation of up. And so then we'll set our animation down as a new animation, and frame duration is going to be 0.2. And this will be region walk 0. And we'll set our play mode to loop. We'll do our animation left. Okay, there's all of our animations. Come down here, our walking, and then we need to keep track of kind of the direction that our character is going. So I'm just going to make a private char to do that. Our direction. And then down here we'll just do a switch off our direction. Okay, so R. And then we need to actually then keep track of characters X and Y location. Start them at 100. Y equals 100. And then we'll have a separate variable for keeping it track of its movement speed. So we'll do 0.8. So here our X is going to be plus equal to the movement speed, and if our X gets greater than, say, 200, I'll set my CX equal to 200 exactly, because that's where I want him to be. I'll set my direction equal to up. So first he moves right, and then when he goes over far enough, then we're going to have him move up. And then we need to draw our texture region. And this one will be animation right. Get our keyframe. Based on our animation time. And X and Y. And we'll break out of that. and then case up. See, y is going to be plus equal to our movement up. And if the y is greater than 200 up, our cy will then equal 200 will equal left. And we'll draw texture region. This one will be animation up. Our keyframe, the animation time, X and Y. And we'll break. And our case of L. And moving to the left, so it's minus equal our movement. And if our CX is less than 100, our CX is going to equal 100. And we'll change our direction and then go down. And then we draw. This will be animation left. Get our keyframe, animation time, X and Y, and then we'll break out of that. And then our last case is down, and then we'll go our Y. We'll subtract our movement, and if our movement is less than 100, that's as far down as we want to go. And then we change our direction and then go right again. And then we draw texture region going down. And we break out. So we have our up move, we have our right movement adding to the X location, drawing the right. Our up movement adding to the Y location, drawing the up. Left movement subtracting from our X location and then drawing left. Our down, where we're subtracting from the Y location and then we're drawing the animation down. And then we'll see our character walking around the screen. She's going to the right, she's going up, going to the left, and she's going down. And so that's how we make our character walk around the screen. And so in the next video, we'll consolidate these animations into our framework to make that process easier. And we'll also add the motion of the character moving around into our framework to make that even easier. And that'll do it in this video, and we'll see you at the next video. Thank you.